So thank you guys for coming. We're going to spend a little bit of time having a conversation with Mr. Hogan. I think most of you, with the exception perhaps of our freshmen and I guess some of our sophomores, have had a chance to interact with Mr. Hogan before. We're in our 12th year as a program, and for that entire time, Mr. Hogan and the rest of the Hogan family, Glenn Hogan's here with us as well today. The Hogan family has been integral in supporting Gonzaga's mission in a variety of different categories, but specifically when it comes to this program and to you. So what we wanted to try to do today was set aside some time when Mr. Hogan could talk to you and share some of his wisdom. And then what we'd like to do at the end of that process is provide you with a little bit of time to ask some questions. So without further ado, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you. Aloha. Oh, I said not too many Hawaiians. There are not too many Hawaiians here.
You still did a lot better than
we'll try that one more time. Aloha. Aloha. That's it. See, it almost sounds like GU. Right. Last night. It was a great play last night, wasn't it, huh?
How many of you were at the game last night?
Wow, just a few. Okay. Well, you know, I don't have the the Washington administration's budget for teleprompters, so I have my iPad here to prompt me along. Is that all right? Okay. So what I'm going to say here is that, you know, I'm Ed Hogan, the chairman of, and I see a 1957 grad that just snuck in from Army Intelligence of many years ago, Jerry Berger, my dear friend and neighbor up in the back there. And so, anyway, I thought I'd embarrass you, Jerry. Now I have to get my iPad going again. But anyway, let me just get to this here. Okay. I'm the chairman of the Hogan Family Foundation that started in 1998 with $119 million that we got from selling our Pleasant Hawaiian Holidays to the Auto Club, AAA, down in Southern California, which is the largest auto club perhaps in the world. They own, well, because we have so many in California, so many automobiles. And Northern Cal is about second, and Southern Cal is the largest. And Southern Cal, under Tom McKernan, they own Texas, New Mexico, part of Florida, part of New England, and auto clubs. So they're very, very big, and they have about $2.4 billion in cash in their kitty, and it's a very, very well-run organization. But when they bought that, my company, first of all, my wife and I gave the company to the Hogan Family Foundation and then sold it to the Auto Club and escaped $33 million in federal taxes, which would have gone to the boys and girls in Washington, D.C. And I really didn't care. My wife didn't either, the way Nancy Pelosi flew those jets, you know, with our money. So with foundations in the United States have over a couple of $1 trillion, and I believe what happened with the forefathers and so on recognized the fact that individuals who made independent and individual decisions and contributed to the common good were better at administrating charity than the federal government was, truly. And that's where it is now. We're not allowed, my wife and I, our family are not allowed to take money out of that 119, well, we don't have the 119 now because we purchased things and spent money and rely primarily on good investments in order to keep the foundation running. And your foundation in the United States can operate for 99 years, and then it has to cease to exist. I don't know why, or they did that or whatever, but they did. So that's okay. I'm 84 already, and I've got 99 years. My children and grandchildren will be running and out of it. But anyway, so once again, my iPad closed down. So let me begin by giving you a little bit of understanding of where we're at, what our mission is, okay? So let me first, well, for the past 10 years, we have sponsored with $250,000 a year this program, the entrepreneurial program that you are all participating in, and we thank you for it, because you are our future, the future of not the Hogan Family Foundation, the future of America and free enterprise and free thinking in the world, I think, okay? Because you know, in many other countries, they don't have that opportunity to do their free thinking. They're dictated, and they just have to follow that particular rule and law of that particular society and that particular government. So we are very, very blessed and fortunate, I believe, in the United States, okay? So let me introduce you to my directors. Directors are a very important thing you'll find in your life. It's sort of like mentors that I believe Chris is going to speak about later. We talked about this and having a mentor in your life. Well, my directors are 6 saints, okay? I started with St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis of Assisi, are all of you familiar with him? Most everybody is waving their heads. Okay, and St. Francis had our 2 ranches. We have 2 ranches and 72 horses, okay? Not all horses. We have some mules, and we have some sheep, and we have some donkeys, and all of that. And we rescue primarily all of them that were given to us because people couldn't afford them, or the Humane Society came to us because they were abused and neglected. Okay, so we have that, and we have dogs. And my daughter, Chris, who's now 53, she's been running that program for 10 years, where she takes care of injured dogs that are discarded, and she is known like a Florence Nightingale. How many people know who Florence Nightingale is? Good. History.
We covered that in class.
Good. I beg your pardon?
We covered that in class.
You covered that. Good. Okay. So, like Sister Kenny and so on. But anyway, Chris is known by the veterinarians from LA to San Diego to San Francisco, the whole length of California. We don't reach out to other states because we just couldn't afford to handle everybody. Just like Gonzaga can't afford all the students in the college students in the United States, you know, just you preferred few. So here, Chris will get calls from veterinarians that they found a little dog that might have been hit by a car and on the side of a road, and somebody brought it in, and he calls up and says, Chris, nobody is taking care of this dog and that. It's got a broken leg or so on. I can fix it for so much money, blah, blah, blah. She said, come on, Doc, this is a foundation. Let's talk about a little discounting here. And she massages it a little bit, and they give her a break, and she sends them a check. Then she drives all the way up, I know, to Oakland, all over California, picks up the dog, brings it back, has it up at Glenn's Ranch, and take care of it, and then look for adoption for somebody. And boy, is she strict on adoption, and makes them sign a paper that if they're going to get rid of the dog whatsoever, they must bring it back to us in 30 days. You know, sometime person says, oh, my kids that love a dog, then they just don't all get along together, and then they don't want it, she doesn't want it just given out and left in the street or something. So bring it on back, we'll take care of it again and look for somebody that can handle it, okay? Okay, so St. Francis is #1 because in my directors, because St. Francis, I have 2 7.5-foot statues of St. Francis, each in each ranch, and he's got a wolf on his side, and he has a mare and the little foal next to it, all in bronze, and he's holding like this onto a bird, okay? I don't know which kind it is, a swallow or whatever, but there. And one of the St. Francis, the old St. Francis that we used to see when I was a kid and everything always had anguish on his face, like being tortured. This particular artist, Robert Cunningham, did a beautiful one with him laughing and smiling. And so the children that we have primarily were Hispanic children who were Christian Catholics primarily, and understood and believed in St. Francis, and we teach them more. That St. Francis said, man who has no compassion and pity for God's creatures, large and small, will never have compassion and pity for mankind. So we teach them that. So because, you know, kids, all of you may think sometime when you're little and got your first BB gun or pea shooter that you're gonna shoot it at the cat, shoot it at the dog or whatever, you know, and you don't think, oh, it's just fun, you know, but it's injurious. And so here we're teaching the children to be kind and love the animals and respect the animals, and in so doing we find they have a much more compassion for other children, no bullying, and other people. So that's very, very important, we think, in a civilized society, okay? So then, I go from St. Francis to St. Teresa. And St. Teresa, when I was a little baby, and I was born the 9th child of Irish immigrant parents, and my mother was a registered nurse who was in the Coombs Hospital where she learned nursing and got her RN in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, and it's still over there, that hospital. And anyway, when she came over to this country and met my father and got married in New Jersey, my father came over as a professional soccer player, and they only got like $25 a week then, so it wasn't so great. And by the time he got to be about 28, 29, or 30, and they didn't have all the leg protections and so on they have today, you get kicked up and everything. So what did he join? An Irish local of bricklayers, and he became a bricklayer. And during the Depression, it was very, very difficult for anybody, even college graduates, engineers, and so on, to make a living from 1930, about 1929, the crash, but about 1930 until about 1938 or 39, when America started getting set for World War II and building and so on. It was very, very tough here. Anybody, if you read your histories about the Great Depression, it was very difficult. So my mother contracted what they used to call consumption. It was what Robert Louis Stevenson died of, and many, many other famous people, tuberculosis. There was no cure for it, so when you got it in those early days, it consumed a person. And I had a sister Marie that had the same, and a sister Grace that died before I was born from diphtheria. Why did I tell you these sad stories? Because the realization of education and progress in science and such that helped us as today. Thank God none of you have to be worried, or your parents or grandparents, about infantile paralysis. But it was a scourge, 60 years ago or so. I may not have the exact date, but the March of Dimes with President Roosevelt and so on, very, very difficult. So anyway, my sisters became the mothers. And my sisters, okay, 6 of them, they would go when they were 14 or 15 and work as maids for people that had some money, to make some money to bring home to the house. Now, why I say that proudly today, embarrassed when I was a kid, because of the fact that they had to be productive individuals, and without contribution, you can't be compensated. And so with that, they would come after me to get my elbows off the table, chew with my mouth closed, and all of those things that they learned from the more educated and wealthy people that they worked for. So it was really a creative and knowledgeable and learning life that I had as a young boy. The baby, I was the only child of 9. Well, 2 passed away, as I told you earlier. My mother died when I was 2, so 2.5. So I was the only one that graduated high school. And then I went to college after the war. I went to the Navy Air Corps at 17, and after the war, got into Seton Hall, Catholic University in New Jersey, great basketball team at the time, and with Davis and so on. But anyway, but then not knowing what I wanted to do in life, and so many people in school, like today you may have that same question in your mind, what am I going to do the rest of my life? And at the beginning, in the early stages, it's just, I got my friends. I don't need anything else. And nothing can happen to us. No diseases, no deaths. That's for old people that are like 40 when we were kids, you know? So you're reckless. Yeah, I'm sorry if you made it. Thanks anyway, right, Chris? But anyway, that was life at that time, okay? 1946, 1947 and that. So then I got a friend of mine who got me a job at the Newark Airport, New Jersey, for $10 a night to come and do weight and bounces. I knew how to do that from being in the Naval Air Corps, and get these planes out that were called non-schedule airlines. There were so many guys that got out of the service then. There were girls too, but the girls didn't go into commercial aviation much then. They did the shuttling of aircraft and so on during the war, you know, and they did a fantastic job, but they were not allowed to do any fighter planes and all, which they do today. Anyway, so I met these different guys that got out. They said, Hogan, why don't you start flying with us as a co-pilot? What are you going to do? Okay, so I went and got all my lessons and all, bought my own little airplane and flew it till I could qualify more, and got doing that. From that, the good Lord got me into sales, because there were so many pilots, I'd get laid off all the time. And when the airline I went with, the last one I was with, the vice president of sales was a pilot. The president had been a pilot. The vice president with United, the vice president of sales was the pilot, and the Jim Corbett, who was related to Gentleman Jim the Fighter from San Francisco and graduated from St. Ignatius in San Francisco. He said, hey, Hogan, you're in the Naval Air Corps. Look at, you're Irish. You can sell. Come on. We need to keep these other guys in the air. We got to get you out selling with us. He was the vice president of sales. So I started selling tours to Hawaii and built from there, and lucky, got very good at it, to the point when in 1959 they went out of business, Transocean Airlines, that couldn't compete with the jets and so on, and they didn't have the money to buy any. So my wife and I opened up. I was married by then to a gal I went to high school with. We've only been married now 60 years, this last August, and 4 children and so on. And so anyway, here we got into starting our own little company, Pleasant Travel Service, and then Pleasant Hawaiian Holidays out of Point Pleasant, New Jersey. I was then back in New York as the director of domestic and Pacific sales when the company went out of business. So with that background, I'm only telling you all of this so you have quite a road to travel in your lifetime, and you'll have stories like this to tell, okay? And I hope you're blessed with the success that we were able to obtain. With $10,000 under our great free enterprise system, Lynn and I opened up this little travel agency and built it up And we opened that up in 1959, and by 1962, I was asked to come out to California again because I skipped one little period. I left Transocean for a short time when I met Henry J. Kaiser, you know, Kaiser Steel, Kaiser Aluminum, Permanente Cement and Permanente Hospitals and all of that. And he had built a hotel with a gentleman who was a tremendous gentleman, Fritz B. Burns, who built, he went to the Wharton Business School, then he helped fund Loyola University down in Southern Cal, where I was later 9 years on the Board of Trustees. And so Mr. Burns and Mr. Kaiser hired me because I was so successful in bringing people over to Hawaii, and I went with them because Transocean looked like it wasn't going to make it, and I went with them, and then they hired a man from Seattle called Eddie Carlson. I'm staying in his hotel, the Davenport. They had 4 hotels. The Davenport, I forget the other two couple now, but anyway, here he came in because Mr. Kaiser recognized he could not run the hotel business. He could do steel and aluminum and all these other different things, but he needed the expertise. Once again, you'll hear me talk about no man is an island. None of us know everything, okay? So we need each other. Eddie Carlson was fantastic. He was the person who had the Seattle World's Fair, you know, the big sphere up there and so on. He was the man that, from Westin Hotels, became the chairman of United Airlines. And I met him several times. We became friends. He was a fantastic gentleman, a wonderful, wonderful man. And a small man, about 5'7", 6 or 7 or so, and just terrific and a real humanitarian, a very, very good person. So we learned from that. Well, I was back in the East with my travel agency, and Mr. Kaiser retired at about 83, and Mr. Burns took on his friend, another very devoted Catholic, Conrad Hilton. And Conrad Hilton and he became partners, and the Hilton Hawaiian Village is called, you know, today, was because of Hilton and Burns. And Burns always was not really the silent partner, but he didn't use his name on those things. So here, Mr. Burns asked me to come back and be a vice president for them in either Southern California or in Hawaii. Well, I already had my little business, so I kindly told him, gee, I'd like to continue my business. This man was such a great gentleman. When you talk about mentors, he said, Ed, I admire you for having your own business. I have 17 shopping centers out here in California. You pick one, I'll put you up there if you'll do consulting for me, because we need the business to Hawaii, and you sell Hawaii the best I know of. Well, what a great deal. Not much of a gamble, not much of a risk. So I said, okay. And I came back and opened up in Panorama City, which is a big panorama ranch that he and Henry J. Kaiser built Kaiser Community Homes in. And it was a flourishing place and great. And they put me, Mr. Burns put me in a little building that had no bathroom. We had to go to the bar next door. They used to think we were alcoholics. But my wife and I and a couple of girls we had working for us would go from this little building over to the bar, and also a restaurant was over there called Big Boy Bob's Restaurant. It's a very famous one down there. So anyway, this is the way life progressed, and we built from that to be the largest tour operator to Hawaii, bringing over 6 million people to Hawaii, and actually earning over $500 million a year in business. That's the American spirit. That's the American dream. And we netted about 10 million, and was paying $4 million a year in taxes. So, which was fine until we learned how to buy jet airplanes and depreciate them and not have to pay any taxes. However, again, some of the administration in Washington said, shame on you, okay? The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Guess what? Every airplane that we buy is manufactured here in the United States. I bought 4 Gulfstreams, okay? And these things cost millions of dollars. The last 2 were $45 million a piece. Think of the people that work to produce them and pay taxes. Think of the people that fly them after we buy them and pay taxes. The flight attendants, the maintenance, all of these things. And every time we land anywhere, including Spokane, it's a landing fee, okay? So we are creating commerce all the way. Now, some of the czars in Washington who never risked their own money don't understand free enterprise. They don't understand what it is to be contributory. It's just take, take, take. So anyway, enough of that lecture. I'll go on and tell you that from St. Teresa, then I had St. Anthony, and then I have St. Jude, who every day I pray for wisdom and the ability to make the right decision at the right time, and then the courage to execute the right decision at the right time. Many times, all of us know what we ought to do, don't have the courage to do it. You put it off, when you should strike ahead and do it, okay? So like our good friend, I don't know if he's not here today, I guess, Fred Brown, who went to Gonzaga, graduated from Gonzaga. I couldn't believe it. He got a scholarship in rodeo, a cowboy, okay? And he became a fine engineer, sold his first programming and all for $48 million, gave Gonzaga $1 million of stock and everything. I met him through Father Spitzer, who I imagine most of you all know Father Spitzer. And so with that, I invested $1 million with Fred's Next IT. It is growing and growing. He has 130 employees, he told me last night, and just fantastic. And some of the things that he's done, and he's a cowboy, you know, and we have a lot of fun together. We're going up, and after I see you all, we're going up there and ride. Anyway, okay, so then I have Father Sarah. Father Sarah, you folks may not know very well up north here, but he was the missionary, the Franciscan, that built the missions, the 21 missions. Actually, he built 9, and then Father Crespi and some of his other assistants, so to speak, built the rest of them, and really created commerce in California. Really, not only the fact that he evangelized and made Christian the natives, the pagans, but he also taught how to build, how to take the land and cultivate it and not have to wander as the Indians at that time did. They'd go almost like our horses. If we'd had wild horses, they graze, they'll go 25, 50 miles and just keep grazing. They don't plant anything, they don't grow anything, okay? And the nomads in the Chumash that we had in the Southern Cal, particularly and all, would do that. Very nice people, but he taught them all of these more civilized things, and like high tech, growing corn, you know, and things of that nature. And they were very, very well done and building. So I have a prayer to Father Sarah, blessed Father Sarah. He's not yet a saint. You know why he's not a saint? Okay? Because protesters said Hispanic protesters who don't know or not educated enough said he used to beat the Native Indians and he didn't treat them very well. What is wrong about that, out of context, is that, did you ever hear the expression from your grandparents, and I probably don't use it today, I'll beat the devil out of you? You ever hear that? I don't see anybody say yes, but we used to hear that, okay? And in those days, if a priest had in his mind an evil thought, like, I don't like that person, oh, forgive me, Jesus, because we are to love one another and love everybody. They had like a cat o' nine tails, and they'd thrash themselves on the back, beat the devil out of them. Satan was entering their mind, okay? Now you might say, that's like voodoo, but that was done at that time. So when the young Indian boys would look at the young Indian girls and want to romance them, no, 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 no. You get married if you want to have a relationship, okay, and have the responsibility of taking care of that person who you married, and if you have children, having responsibility to have them baptized and go through all of the edicts, or let's say the disciplines of the church. So if they disobeyed those, yes, he'd beat the devil out of them. Not bad, not torturous, you understand? Not like Captain Bligh, but that was the thing. So here, some people in California who object and raise heck about it, like the Wall Street Post protesters now. And so he has been blessed, but not yet canonized as a saint. But he will be one day, and I'm still praying to him. So anyway, and then Father Damien. Now I'm kind of a nutty guy, you'll see. Father Damien was the leper colony priest who was over there and was unbelievable to took in the lepers. And if any of you here read Michener's Hawaii, no one? I guess not. It's fantastic. You may have seen the movie years ago, but fantastic when they talk about the leper colony and how terrible it was. Here was a disease, again, now called Hansen's disease, and there is a cure for it, okay? People don't get it anymore. Well, at least in the United States, maybe some countries underdeveloped may have it, but anyway, it was horrible. So they would take people from a family and send them out to Molokai, and an island, little peninsula that you'd had to come down from the hard mountains to get there, and they were isolated entirely. And it was savagery before, no rule, no law, till Father Damien went over. He was a Sacred Heart priest, and he went over and he took care of him. He built the church. He gave them spirit. He gave them a religion. He gave them hope. And he contacted leprosy himself and died of it later. He is a saint. And why I pray to him, this is a selfish, evil thing I do, but I said when he became a saint, you know, he doesn't have as many emails as the other saints that have been around a long time. So I'm going to ask him for some special things. And I have right now 6 people that are quite ill. And one is a grandson of mine. And I pray to Father Damien to perform miracles and get them better. One is a dear, dear friend of mine who was 20 years the chief pilot of United Airlines out of Los Angeles, Gary Meermans. He won't mind me telling you all this for your sake. And about 2 years ago, I flew with Gary. Gary, when he retired from United at 60, at that time he had to. He's now 66 only. That's young. I'm 84. And Gary contracted Parkinson's. He can't fly, he can't drive, really in quite bad shape. So I have a prayer to Father Damien. If you remember, say one for him. And that he'll be restored and come back miraculously. And it could happen, okay? All right, so there's my 6 board of directors that I pray for every day. And I understand they just recently found in Egypt or such sort of writings of oh my goodness, Mary Magdalene, who said that Christ is always within us, and you can pray silently to Christ, and he will hear you. You don't necessarily, if you missed Mass and you're not, if you're Jewish and you're not in a temple or such, you could still talk to God. And so that's what I do every day. It takes me about a half hour. I could be driving. I'm on my horse sometime riding, and I'm catching up, you know. And it makes no matter, and I'm sure God doesn't mind, okay? So that we, as long as we remember him. So, I've introduced you to my directors. Now, I told you, one of the prayers I may have said to you, I ask for wisdom every day. I did say that to you. And the courage to make the right decision each day, because we never know, okay? And now, are there any non-Catholics here? Please, if you are, just raise your hand. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11, 12, 13, 14, a lot. Wonderful. I am married for 60 years to a Lutheran, okay? Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther in Germany, you know. If any of you happen to be Lutheran, know the story. He was a terrific monk, and he just at that time said, enough with these indulgences that are being sold to take care of a couple of Pope brothers, okay, that ran out of money in the Vatican. And so he got angry about that, and the German government was very happy because they didn't like the money going to the Vatican anyway. It was a, you know, another country, you might say, very powerful. So there was that disagreement. So I said to Father Spitzer one time, we were driving together, he stayed at my house when he come down from Gonzaga, and we'd be there, and he'd go out to my ranch and bless the animals and so on. And I said to him one day, I'm taking him back to the airport, I said, you know, Father, and I got him off balance because he's so brilliant. And I said, Father, anyone who believes in the 10 laws of civility are okay in my book. I don't care if they're Catholic, I don't care if they're Protestant, I don't care if they're Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, as long as they believe in the 10 laws of civility. He turned to me, I kid you not, and he said, I told you I caught him off balance like jiu-jitsu, and he said, Ed, I've got 5 doctorates, 2 in philosophy. I have never read about the 10 laws of civility. I said, Father, you call them the 10 Commandments. He says, why don't you refer to them as the 10 Commandments? Because I said, in this cockamamie world today, in the United States, they don't allow us to hang the 10 Commandments in public schools and public buildings. I said, it's crazy. So I said, but philosophy is okay. If you look at the Supreme Court of the United States of America, there's a facade. Have any of you here been to Washington, D.C.? You ever see the Supreme Court? You ever look up there? Who's up there? Moses, holding the 10 Commandments, the 10 laws of civility. So I say, if a person is of another faith, another color, another race, I don't care. if thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, honor thy father and thy mother, don't bear false witnesses against thy neighbors, and you know the rest of it. Down the line, it's okay with me. He's not going to have his child wrapped in explosives and send them out to blow me up. What kind of a religion is that? That's cuckoo, okay? So, as I say, it's all right. The Judeo-Christian religion is the foundation of America. And so we must love each other, we must respect each other, and learn from each other. In my book, I'm just giving you my opinions, okay? Now, in this regard, as I say, and I told you about Moses, I have to read my quick notes here. Oh, now, those are the civil laws that have been used for thousands of years that made civil people who could live in peace and trade with each other and prosper, okay? Now, who makes the rules and the laws that we must live by? Do you know? In the United States, it's Congress. When I ask you this question, maybe a little embarrassing, do any of you here know what political district you live in? You do, sir?
I think it's
And you do, sir. Which one is it?
4th district.
The 4th.
I can't hear you from here.
The
He
4th
says fourth.
district.
I'm sorry, did
The
you?
4th district.
The 4th?
Yeah.
Okay. And you, sir?
I'm from Montana, so there's one.
That's okay. I should have worn my sombrero. Good. But now, I'm going to ask you another question. How many of you can consciously and honestly name the first team of Gonzaga University's basketball team now playing? One? A half of one? I saw you go like that.
The starters. How many of you know who starts on it?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Quite a few. Looked like about at least 1/3 from my view, okay? Very good. I'm going to ask you another tough question now. Only answer it if you really know the question. Do any of you know who Kobe Bryant is? How many? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Whew. Absolute majority. Okay. Who does he play for? The St. Louis Cardinals? Do you know who he plays for? How many people? Raise your hand. The Lakers, huh?
He plays for.
Now, you all know that. Very good. Okay, I'm going to ask you one other question here. Who do you think is the highest paid golfer in the world, consistently for the last 10 years? How many? Raise your hand. I can almost hear you saying Tiger Woods, correct? And you're absolutely right. This year, he only made, I heard, 96 or 97 million. Okay?
It's hard to get by on.
Difficult, difficult, okay? Uh-oh. I didn't tap it enough, so it's closed down again. Excuse me. I'm back, okay. All right, now, I went through that. Now, how many of this is going to be a tough one for you, I think. How many of you, raise your hand if you know who Zemljata was? Is Zemljata. There's a racing fan. Anybody else? 2? Okay. It's a mare, a thoroughbred mare that won 19 straight races against the best stallions in the world. Now, can you imagine our Olympics? I'm doing this now and then to keep it alive. Can you imagine the Olympics having the male runners and the female runners race together? No, because man is supposed to be, you know, more powerful, built bigger, and so on and so forth than the female. The same thing with the horses. But doggone old Zenyatta beat them all 19 times in a row, okay? Did you know that 10% of the purse, and boy, she won millions of dollars, 10% of the purse goes to the jockey and also the trainer, and the balance of the purse goes to the owner who takes the biggest risk, okay? Now, I'm going to talk to you. I believe you all heard about the fact that we, good people with good heart, okay, should redistribute our wealth with the poor people, okay? So let's look at that just a moment, okay? Let's say that we said to Kobe Bryant, hey, Kobe, you make too much money. He made about 60 or 70 million last year with the endorsements and all. You've got to share with the guys on the bench that aren't even second string, perhaps. You got to share that money. You know what would happen to Kobe? He wouldn't practice. He wouldn't practice. Tiger, you make much too much money with the endorsements you have. And the PGA, even when you had that trouble in your life and you didn't play for a while, boy, the attendance went down like this. The taxes were bad because people pay tax on every ticket and so on, okay? And the horse race, Zenyatta, you trainer, you jockey, you owner must share with the guys that were last, just about got out of the gate. They wouldn't invest. Our good friend Jerry Berger taught me so much about horse racing because he loves them. He went to many 9 or 10 Kentucky Derbies. He said there's 36,000 thoroughbred racehorses born every year. 36,000. Only the top 20 get, after they go through elimination, as when fellows here that graduate from Gonzaga's basketball team, if they're top guys, how many are taken by the Lakers and some of the other teams? A few, but not very many. You see? So it's very, very difficult. So the guy that had Zenyatta, what a risk of paying the veterinarian bills, paying the jockey, paying everybody, and then winning, and then having to give that money away. If that happened, all of the sports stadiums would go bankrupt. Nobody would go. If you don't keep score, what's the sense of playing, right? It's crazy. The same thing, good people, are in business. My wife and I worked 7 days a week for many years to keep our business growing and going till we got 1,700 employees, owned 7 hotels, sold 5 hotels, and bought jet aircraft. Still employing people, still keeping going. Are we doing well? We are. Contribution for compensation. The more you contribute to the common good, the more society is going to compensate you. That's since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of time, you had poor people. And it wasn't always their fault, okay? They were subjugated to slavery. It didn't begin in the United States, okay? Egypt, all over the world, they had this indentured people, okay? So as it grew and as people got going and had the opportunity, the greatest opportunity of any country in the world, is the United States of America. Now I have to take a little back from that and say Switzerland. I've been to Switzerland many times. I have many friends there. They are terrific in how they take care of their people, and They have no one on welfare, okay? Every household is given a gun. Is that something? To protect themselves from a large government. and the overthrowing of anything and anyone, okay? The Japanese, after the war, were asked, why didn't you continue to invade the United States of America? They said it's suicidal. Everybody in America had a gun. All the hunters. There were millions and millions of hunters, and there still are out there that have guns. I'm on the Sheriff's Posse in Ventura County. Glenn is. We're required to have gun practice. Every 120 days we have to qualify, and we have to carry a concealed weapon when we go out on search and rescue, because there's some wacko out there that may be a pedophile or whatever, or a druggie, and he's going to shoot at us. So we have to protect ourselves. But anyway, these are just some of the things that you have to learn and understand when you're talking about having a civil society. Go, I dare you, to Google and research and see that Switzerland has less crime and murders of gun-related, particularly, than any country in the world. If you're going to break into a Swiss house, you may get shot. Okay? He's not a pussycat that's going to hold up a sign, please don't rob me. Done. Okay. Getting on to other things. As I talk about contribution and compensation, I have traveled around the world. Every time I traveled, I had to show my passport. Some places, I'd have to apply for a visa besides my passport when I go to China and so on. Get a visa, okay? I'd never need a passport in any country in the world if I could contribute to that country something they didn't have, like the cure to cancer. If I had the cure to cancer like that, did you know, I know you're too young to know all of the history of World War II. During World War II, the Germans could have won the war if Dr. von Braun and his team could have gotten the jet engine more perfected. They had the buzz bomb that went over to England 23 miles across the channel and blow up people and so on. If they could have gotten, and they almost had the jet aircraft ready to go, okay, they could have won. After the war, the United States and other countries, England and Russia, prosecuted war crimes, okay? They never prosecuted Dr. von Braun. We brought him, and I believe it was 20, it may have been a little more, scientists to the United States of America because we needed that technology. And he was the one that started the space program here, and the first two space missiles that were built by Rocketdyne and shipped went by barges down around the canal. And the first one with rough seas got beat up, they couldn't use it. The second one, some kids with air rifles, 22s really, shot at it and nicked it up, no good. The third one, it cost so many hundreds of millions of dollars, Congress wasn't going to give them any more money. Dr. von Braun pleaded, and the third one was brought by an airplane called the Pregnant Guppy. A friend of mine, Lee Mansdorf, Jewish fellow, fantastic guy, test pilot, went ahead and he took a 377 Stratocruiser that we flew with Transocean Airlines at the end, Boeing 377, double-decker, Stratocruiser. You look at the old Pan Am planes, United planes that went to Hawaii, went around the world, okay? They were them. He enlarged it, swung the nose to the side, put the missile in it, and 1961, I happened to be present, and Clay Lacy, who operates my two jets today, took it off at Van Nuys Airport and flew this thing with no missile just to get it off the ground. Nobody could think the thing would fly. The FAA, well then it was the CAA, Civil Aeronautics Administration, disallowed them to take off. They were supposed to do just a high-speed taxi to see how it worked. This big lumbering thing, okay? The largest plane at that time built, and built privately, not by Boeing or Douglas and so on. And so Jack Conroy and Clay Lacy took the thing off, flew around. Later, because of the fact that Van Nuys and San Fernando Valley was getting more and more populated, they took it out of Santa Barbara Airport and they called it Aerospace Lines, and they delivered several of the missiles down to then Cape Canaveral, now Cape Kennedy. And Dr. von Braun sent a letter to Clay Lacy and to Jack Conroy and to my friend Lee Mansdorf, who financed it and was the idea man, telling him we would not have NASA and the space agency had it not been for them. Here we're talking, I'm talking to future entrepreneurs. Look what they created in a free enterprise market, okay? Really contributory. Now the last thing I want to tell you is that if any of you found the fountain of youth or the secret to stopping aging, you'd not only be accepted without a passport, but you'd be kidnapped by some dictator like Gaddafi or that'd say, I'll live forever. We get the foreman and cut his head off. So it'd be very dangerous. Don't invent that, but invent other things that would be good for the common good, and you'll all prosper, okay? Thank you for being so kind to listen to me, and I'll turn it over to the professor.
Do you have questions for Mr. Hogan? I have a couple, but I'd rather defer to you.
I know you talk a lot about tax burdens and sort
Can you speak up, because I've hard of hearing.
I know you talked a lot about tax burdens and sort of how you think it's unfair that wealthier people are being asked to pay a larger percentage of taxes. What do you think about people like Warren Buffett that have come forward and talked about?
Speak more about what?
What do you think about people like Warren Buffett that have come forward and said that they think that?
Can you repeat that for me?
Yeah.
People who've been.
So
I'm awfully sorry.
Matt's question is regarding burden, the tax burdens that are placed on wealthy individuals. Do you have any comments on individuals like Warren Buffett who have come forward and said that they think that the rich should pay more?
A beautiful question. I appreciate it. And it wasn't, he's not a shill. Okay? Because I just went to Las Vegas to the NBAA. That stands for the National Business Aviation Association, not administration, association, privately run by all of the various manufacturers of airplanes, operators of private aircraft of all kinds. I mean, it doesn't have to be a jet. King Air, which is a Beechcraft twin engine and so on. And guess what? I should have brought the little pamphlet. All around the whole place were 7-foot posters, about that wide, about 7, 8 foot high, of Warren Buffett smiling, and under each one would be this sentence: how can you be there if you're not there? to make the deal. You go to another one. How can you see eye to eye with a conference phone call? Be there to make the deal. I'm paraphrasing, I may not be exactly right. So here was this little booklet. I picked up 19 of them because they were left in chairs. A lot of people left them there. And I said, boy, this is dynamite. Because he came out and said to President Obama that he wasn't paying enough taxes, that his secretary paid more taxes than he did, and so on and so forth. And then President Obama really came out against the rich that were flying on these private jets everywhere, okay? And you may recall, what was it, 2 years ago about that Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford executives flew down in their private jets to Washington, D.C., and they were chastised by, guess who? Madam Pelosi, that was flying one of our airplanes that she demanded free, okay, for flying in private jets down there. I got to tell you folks something. How many of you have, I'm not even going to raise your hands, I know you've heard about some disgruntled employees, particularly, it seems, at the post office, that would come in and kill other employees. Their supervisor, that. They were angry about them. Okay? General Motors has, like, I believe it's 90,000 employees. Do you think there's one or two of them that hate the CEO? There are. Loco, mucho. Okay? So these guys need bodyguards because they are in such a position. How come the Vice President of the United States has a bodyguard? How come the children of the President of the United States, since after Truman's days, I guess, or Eisenhower's, have Secret Service men? My brother, who is 89 now, his grandson's a Secret Service agent. What these guys have to go through in training and protection, okay? It's unbelievable. They put their lives on the line to protect these people. Yet, the CEOs of these major corporations should not travel in a private jet. They should go get the pat down like I did yesterday coming up here. Take my boots off, take my belt off, everything. Anyway, they have to go, I have to come up on my own jet, but I'm too cheap. And it's flying all the time on charters. But anyway, can you believe that? How crazy. So getting back though to your question, why was Warren Buffett's sign all up there? Because Warren Buffett owns 776 private jets under the name of NetJet, okay? And he knows, since he's a brilliant man, but he knows from the beginning of time, travel was always for business sake first. The explorers were paid by various countries to come and find riches. It wasn't going on the good ship Lollipop, you know, for fun, not tourist, okay? United Airlines, when it began, I don't know if you probably don't know this history, it was begun by a man born on a plantation in Hawaii, okay? W.G. Patterson, Bill Patterson, known as Pat Patterson, okay? You pointed, is your name Patterson, sir? Well, I'm sorry. Are you related in any way?
I should be more wealthy if I was.
I'm sorry?
He'd be more wealthy if he was.
Okay, you're rich enough being here. But anyway, Pat Patterson came over to work for Wells Fargo as a young banker he didn't want to be in the plantations and so on over in Hawaii. I don't know what his father or mother did, but anyway. So he came over here and he got this job. And Wells Fargo said, son, you got to go out and collect money from these guys that are like these Hell's Angels, you know. They're kind of wild men, okay, that fly these airplanes, okay, and they owe us money and they're not paying us. Oh, you go collect and try to get it together so we can get our money back. Okay, who are they? BAT. Who's BAT? Boeing Air Transport. TAT. Who's TAT? Trans-America Transport. WAT. They all call themselves transports. They didn't call themselves airlines then. Western Air Transport. And I forget the fourth one. It wasn't something like Novell or something. I can't remember. So he was such an entrepreneur with such vision. He goes ahead, he pulls them together. Hey guys, look, we've got to confiscate your airplanes or you got to reorganize. You got to get together. You got to make this thing work. I know you love to fly, and I love to fly. He got to love the guys and the flyers and their personalities and the whole business. And he had a vision. So he says, okay, we're going to call it United Airlines. And guess what? We're going to start and establish in Chicago, Illinois. Any of you here born in Hawaii? Anybody here? How unfortunate. How unfortunate. If I were born and raised in Hawaii, and I believe you all to be the same, what a great life. I'm going to leave there and go back to freezing weather. And there's terrible places. When I can swim, I can live wonderfully here. You know, where there's plenty of fruit and veg, everything. Okay. He goes ahead, goes to Chicago. Why did he go to Chicago? Because he knew transportation, the fastest, most economical, most efficient transportation was used by businessmen. And what was the businessman's greatest route? It was between Chicago and New York. Chicago was booming, and New York was booming. And the people of Chicago that would go over to Europe to get various products, whether it's tea, whether it's silver works, whether it's machinery from Germany or whatever, when they come back on a ship to New York Harbor, the first landing place and the closest from Europe, okay, the ship took over 4 hours to come in with what they call a pilot boat. Pilot would have to go out and direct, they do it yet today, and direct the ship through the Narrows and up the Hudson River. During that time, American TWA and United Airlines representatives would go out in the pilot boat, be allowed to, and hotel people and transportation people, trains, would go out and sign up during that 4-hour period the people who wanted further transportation. And here was Patterson's great thinking of get them and talk to these people that have been away 2 months or so from their home and their business. We can get you there faster. I flew as a co-pilot on a DC-3 not that far back, okay? And we did 120 miles an hour. It's 711 miles from New York to Chicago, okay? We can get there a lot faster than the overnight train that would go 45, 50 miles an hour, stopping it along the way. So they sold the tickets, not the tourist, but the business people. Later, when the movie industry began in New York, later when Cecil B. DeMille and others came out to Hollywood because of its sunshine all the time and better weather all the time, okay? ran the westerns and all, they started flying their heroes and their movie people back and forth, which elevated to the public, wow, transportation. So, here we go. Transportation creates, I have 2 G450s, 14 passengers. Look on the web and you can see them, okay? And they're beautiful aircraft. I flew, my wife and I and family, 1% of the time all last year, okay? We have them out, chartering them. Do we make a lot of money from it? Not that much, but we don't have to pay heavy taxes because we're allowed, as Warren Buffett is, why he has them, 7 years depreciation. You can depreciate them rapidly. Hotels, I bought 7 hotels when we were able to depreciate them in 15 years. Today, 31 and a half years, if you talk to your CPAs or if any of you are studying that. So you can't get your money back as rapidly. And all of us, when we invest, want some money coming back so we can reinvest. You know the perfect place for that? Las Vegas. Las Vegas loves winners. Not too many of them, but they love winners. The odds are in their favor. So if you go up there and you're known as a whale, Steve Wynn will send a jet to Spokane, to Timbuktu to pick you up and fly you, because a whale will gamble $1 million. They're going to end up with most of it. So what does it cost? If it cost them $50,000 to pick you up and fly you up, you're not going to pay for your hotel room, anything. And they're going to protect you when you leave with the money, so you're not mugged or anything. The old mobsters used to do that. Make sure the sucker gets home safely so he can tell everybody how he won, and he'll send more suckers out here. So it's commerce, you follow me? It's tremendous. And again, Mr. Obama said people shouldn't go to Vegas. About 2 years ago, I was. Oh, listen to Steve Wynn about that. You know, terrible. They have over 13%, I believe, in it, because Glenn graduated with his master's degree from UNLV. He's a cowboy today and loves it. But anyway, he worked at the hotels over there and so on, and he's got his master's in the hotel industry. And boy, oh boy, I mean, when you were there, it was flourishing, right? No one out of work. They were looking for people to work. Today, over 13% out of work because conventions were afraid to go there. The government may penalize them. All of this silliness, okay?
May I just add briefly to that?
I'm sorry?
May I just add briefly
Please.
to that question? I think it's a great question. And you may have heard that if the United States currently taxes everyone 100%, it's not going to solve the out-of-control spending that's occurring at Washington, D.C. And I think everyone needs to really look at that, because brilliance comes from taking complex things and looking at simple solutions. And if you look at that, that clearly indicates that we are out of control with our spending in Washington, D.C. And is the solution giving them more money? And you've heard the saying that if you don't learn from history, you're condemned to repeat it. And England, as you know, possibly, they had a brain drain. And you're seeing that in the United States, where GE and a lot of companies, Steve Jobs in his current book, met with Obama, and he said, if we can get just some more computer engineers in the United States, I will build the factories here instead of in China. And President Obama gave all the excuses and blamed. And instead of uniting the United States, it's why we can't. And the concern is it's really a pivotal point of defining whether we're going to be the land of opportunity, where free will will allow us the freedom to choose and realize the dreams that we have. And taking and redistributing, as my father mentioned, through history has proven that that is really not the solution, but allowing the tools and the ability for people to be independently accountable and providing that platform so that everyone can prosper together. And those that don't wish to, God bless them, but there's consequences for your actions, as we've all learned in physics. That will restore America so it's united, so it's not us against them. And I think the accountability has to start in Washington, D.C. and free up so the entrepreneurs and people can then create more commerce that then the taxes will resolve if the spending is, does that make sense? So if we all paid 100%, and the other thing is they say that they're going to cut over 10 years and that never happens. But when they tax, that's immediate, and I've never seen them give that back. They're just going to continue to spend and really prevent the freedom of commerce. I believe that's what made us the superpower we are.
Now you see, for the next 34 years, because Glenn's just had his 50th birthday, you're going to hear from him because, you know, you don't need to hear from me anymore. But, you know, do yourself, your family, and your future a great favor. Please register, whether you're going to be an independent, whether you're going to be a Democrat, whether you're going to be a Republican, but vote. Vote with your conscience, because those laws you must abide by. And don't you think you ought to know enough about those guys who are in there? And by Republicans and Democrats have lived the life of Riley, as the expression goes. We've got to correct them all. We got to say, hey, let's get back to what the forefathers have. You guys spend 2 years, go back and work on the farm. You know, you don't make this a lifetime career where you're in there forever and schmoozing each other and all of this baloney. So it's really very important. I thank you again. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I think I want to be conscious of Mr. Hogan's time, because I know you're excited to get back out to the ranch. And I want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody to get back and do what they need to do before we show up at the hoedown. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
So we will see you all at the hoedown. You know what the travel arrangements are. Freshmen, be sure you're at this Met before 4 o'clock so that we can make sure we're on time with the buses. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.